Yesterday marked a big milestone for me. It was my year mark of no alcohol, of not having a drop of alcohol. Yesterday was November 25th, 2023, and on November 25th, 2022 was when I had my last alcoholic beverage. It was a 16-ounce beer at Moot's Pizzeria in downtown Detroit. I thought that I had a picture of this beer, but it turns out if I do, I can't find it. It's all up here. It's in my head. I remember what it looked like, and I don't remember thinking to myself that that was going to be my last drink, because before that drink, before that last beer, I had, I believe, one other beer before that, and that was in the beginning of November of last year after I did a long road march with some colleagues. And then before that, it was about 3 weeks earlier. I've been starting to contemplate the idea. It was kind of hard to imagine because drinking alcohol, sometimes to excess, had been such a big part of my life since I was in college. And it was tough to even conceive at that point, because everything in my life, even though I wasn't drinking last year at an excessive amount at all, it seemed like everything in my life, on the weekends especially, would revolve around drinking. The restaurant that I would go to on the weekends, it would be rare for me to choose a restaurant that didn't serve alcohol. And I remember when I was out at a restaurant back in Michigan, I was thinking to myself, I didn't check to see if the restaurant served alcohol. And then I remember feeling slightly disappointed when it didn't, when I found out that there was no alcohol available. And I think I realized a couple weeks later that that might be a good indication that it's time to give up the alcohol. I had also been listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTube videos that were citing research that had proven that there were no health benefits to alcohol, that the most optimal for your health, the most optimal amount of alcohol to drink is 0, that there are no benefits. I remember thinking in the past and seeing research in the past and hearing people in the past say that a little bit of alcohol was good for you, but then I started reading papers and seeing research that was indicating the otherwise, that no amount of alcohol is good for you. I think that the turning point for me was when I listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast about alcohol. I think it came out sometime in the summer, late summer, early fall of 2022. I know a lot of people listen to that podcast. I think it's got 4 or 5 million views on YouTube at this point, probably millions of views on other platforms. And Andrew Huberman went so deep into exploring what alcohol does to your body, what alcohol is, that at that point, that was in October, I remember on a long walk in a park near my house in Michigan, I started thinking, all right, it's time to slow this down. To be quite honest with you, I am grateful for where I'm at today, in large part due to the encounters that I've had with alcohol. There were times where I made decisions because I was under the influence of alcohol, that if one thing had gone wrong after I made that decision, I might not be where I am today. I might be dead. I might be in a completely different walk of life because I could have gotten in trouble. I might not be in the blessed position that I'm in today because of alcohol. I'm not trying to say alcohol is evil. I'm not trying to put a stain on alcohol in a holistic sense. But for me, it took me a long time to realize that drinking alcohol was not a good idea for me personally. In my opinion, it took too long, but I'm glad that I finally made the decision before it was too late. Because there are a lot of good, smart, talented, gifted people out there who, because of one bad night of drinking, causing them to make decisions that they would never make sober. They have one night of that and their whole life is ruined forever. It could be a DUI. It could be hurting somebody in a car accident from driving drunk. It could be doing something completely stupid at a bar and getting accused of doing things that you would never have been accused of if you were sober. I replayed a lot of those scenarios in my mind over the past couple of decades. And I started thinking to myself that I might not have been as bad as the other guy or girl, but there were times where if something else had happened, if there had been a wrinkle in the situation, then maybe I may not be where I am today. Doing a lot of reflecting on how much good alcohol has truly done for me in my life, and the answer is very little. Yes, I've met some friends that I believe I still talk to today, maybe because of alcohol, but the good that alcohol had done for me in my life up to that point was minuscule. And the most important part is that any of the good that it may have done did not outweigh the bad that it had done, did not outweigh the stupid things that I had done when I had been drinking, did not outweigh the trouble that I could have gotten into if I had made a decision, or if someone else had made a decision and things had gone completely awry. One of the issues that I found is that for me, it was difficult to control the amount that I was drinking. I wasn't somebody who could just have one, no matter what the circumstance was. I had to have two, maybe sometimes three, depending on if it was a celebration, if something was going on, what have you. It just wasn't a good mix for me. So I'm glad that I decided to give it up. One thing I noticed a couple of months after having the last drink is that my mind seemed a lot clearer. I talked about this in other videos, but my mind seemed a lot clearer. A big deal was that I had more confidence. It seemed to me like going against the grain helped develop more confidence, whereas most times people think the opposite is true, that you need to have a beer or a glass of wine or a shot of whiskey to increase your confidence. For me, my confidence increased because I could be myself, because I didn't need to rely on an external substance to boost and increase my confidence. I started noticing that even though alcohol is probably the only drug where you have to convince people and explain to people why you don't do it, I found that the cultural pressures in the Army and the military, and you might have cultural pressures in the job that you work in to drink, they were mostly overinflated in my head. Nobody really cares. At work functions, at Army functions, most of them that I go to now, people are just concerned about themselves, really. People are just so concerned about themselves that most people are so concerned about getting their drink and getting their beer or talking about themselves that they don't even notice that all you're drinking is water. They're not going to give you a hard time. And if they do, then that's their problem. That's their problem. A lot of people are worried about, oh, well, if I don't drink, maybe I won't be accepted by the culture and I'll be seen as someone who is against alcohol and alcohol is part of the culture. I would say to that it's probably not as bad as you think it is. And if people do give you a hard time, whether it be your boss or your coworker, that's their problem. That's their problem. It's not your problem at all. Some good explanations that I would use if people asked me if I was drinking was no, I'm driving, or no, I don't sleep well when I've been drinking and I have to do my workout tomorrow morning. No one ever, especially in the Army, no one ever argues with that about you saying I got to do PT in the morning, I got to do physical training in the morning, I got to drive. I mean, those are all logical answers that should steer people away from bothering you. Exercise and being safe, being able to drive safely because you haven't been drinking. Overall, and in the past year, I've noticed that I've saved a ton of money. I think I've saved around, a conservative amount is about $2,000. I added it up in Excel and I realized I put some situations where I didn't drink where I would have if I hadn't stopped drinking alcohol. And it ended up being around $2,000 of savings over the past year, which isn't too much, but it's also not pennies either. And it's $2,000 that I've saved, that I've put toward better ventures that are more healthy for me, that I've put toward learning French, toward having conversations on iTalki with people and improving my French to the point where I'm not fluent yet, but I'm getting close, and in the next couple of months, I would suspect that I'll be at the point where I'm proficient and near fluency. So spending my money on things that actually help me, whereas alcohol does nothing but hurt me. Life has been a lot simpler as well because drinking, especially if you go out to drink, it requires a lot of logistics. It requires finding someone to drive you. It requires finding a Lyft or an Uber to get you from point A to point B and then back home or wherever you're going to go. The logistics surrounding drinking are so immense. I didn't realize how much time I was spending focusing on getting to where I was going, and because drinking was a variable, it always had to be accounted for. Yeah, I think overall, deciding to stop the drinking has been one of the best decisions that I've made in my life. And it was my decision. It's not about blaming alcohol and putting it all on alcohol and saying that alcohol is inherently evil. There's really nothing in this world that's inherently evil. It's the way that we as human beings decide to use the tools and the resources that we have available to us. Alcohol is just a resource. Alcohol is just something that we have available to us, and it's up to us to use it for good if we can. But a lot of times, like most things, most tools and resources we have, if we use it in the wrong way, it can be harmful to our bodies, it can be harmful to our mind, and also we can harm other people if we use it negatively. So I think alcohol is just like anything else, but alcohol, it's very easy to misuse it. And I think that's the problem that I had, is I was not able to use it in a way that was beneficial for me and beneficial for people around me. And I think that if you have anything in your life where you can't find a good use for it, or you can't use it properly to better yourself and to better the people around you and to be a better person, a more kind person, a more compassionate person, a person who shows more empathy, then I'm not sure what the reason is to continue to use that tool or that resource in your life. So it's been 1 year since I stopped drinking yesterday. Do I have plans to return to drinking? My goal right now is to get through the rest of 2023 with no drinking. I don't feel tempted to drink. I don't feel tempted to celebrate 1 year of no drinking by going out and drinking. I haven't felt tempted at all to drink any alcohol. So I'll probably continue on like this for a while, but right now I can't think of any good reason to go back to drinking. And I think that is the sentence that underscores everything. I can't find a good reason to go back to it. My life is 100 times better without alcohol. I feel better. I perform better physically. My mentality is better. I'm more productive. I'm able to get more done. And I simply feel better about myself. And I think that's the most important thing. So right now, no plans to return to alcohol. For me, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. There weren't too many times where I thought to myself, man, I really would like a beer right now. I had a really difficult move from Michigan to Northern Virginia. The adjustment to living in Northern Virginia was very difficult for me. I had a difficult and rough adjustment to moving to Northern Virginia and leaving Michigan, a place that I really love. And there were very few times where I even thought about going and getting a pack of beer or going to the bar. I knew that that was the last thing that I needed, and that it might have made me feel better for 5 minutes at the most, but I knew the next morning or even a couple hours after having some drinks, I would have felt like a complete failure, because I would have felt like I let my circumstances get to me and I tried to solve them with alcohol, which is never a good way to solve problems. All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks a lot for listening. It's been a good year with no alcohol, I will say that much. And I'm just going to keep moving forward, see what happens. All right, take care, everybody. Jump rope to freedom. Peace.